it's Tiffany, and today for episode 5 of my teacher interview series, I am talking with Amanda from High Level History on Instagram and High Level History on YouTube. Amanda had so many good things to say about the state of AP right now, what she's doing outside of the classroom to really help AP teachers in the future, and I think that so many people can benefit from what she has to say. So I hope that you enjoy this. Amanda from High Level History on Instagram and High Level History over on YouTube, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things today. So, hey Amanda, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Tiffany?
Good. All right, so what states are you in, and what states have you taught in?
Yeah, so I'm kind of one of those people that doesn't have a home anymore. I am from Boston. I taught in California, in Oakland, and right now I'm coming at you from Utah. So kind of all over the place.
And what grades, when you were in the classroom, what grades were you working with?
So I taught all 9th and 10th grade. I taught in 5 years at my school. It was a big public high school in Oakland, and I taught big history at first, and then we switched over. Then I taught AP World at the same time for 10th grade, and then I also did AP Human Geography for 9th graders.
And then when you were teaching those things, did you have state standards or a state framework that you had to follow?
I didn't have anything like that. I mean, there are state standards in California, but nobody checked to see that I was doing them. And then I also was in a unique situation, too, because I was teaching with big history. It's kind of an elective class. Like with 9th grade in California, there's no required course. So every school sort of picks something. Some schools have geography or religion or ethnic studies or something. And so we did big history, and for that was something that we were totally piloting with the program itself. So there was no specific standards to hit. And then with AP World, there are world history standards, but for AP World and Human Geography, it's more about hitting like what I know is going to be on the exam.
Did you love big history?
It's really cool. It was honestly terrifying to teach at first. I was just hired and was like handed this course and was like, okay, you're going to teach about the Big Bang in 2 weeks. And I was like, well, I studied like U.S. history in college, so I'm not prepared for this. So it was a huge learning curve for me, but it was really fun because the premise of big history is just that history doesn't start with humans. It's that the story goes back far before that. And so we didn't even get to humans until February. And so we spent the whole like first semester going through like how the Earth formed and how the planets formed and all those different pieces. So it was a lot of science that I had to learn, but it also helped open my students' eyes up to just like being interdisciplinary, and that it's not, history, science, math, English. It's like all one thing. You just have different lenses. So it was a really fun class to teach.
That sounds like I've looked at their stuff and I was like, man, this looks interesting. So that's really cool that you've done that. Do you have a glow and a grow relating to, and this can be from when you were in the classroom or anything that you've been doing over the last year with education, somewhere where you shined and somewhere where you saw growth or want to see growth?
Yeah, I mean, so something that we're doing right now is just kind of like group live reviews. It's called fiveable. And so one of the things that I think we do well with that is student interactions and relationship building, and then just like being able to explain content that's really difficult and break that down for students. And so that's something that I know that I've done well, and that's kind of what has sparked being, teaching live online. But something that I'd like to get better at, which we can totally do, it's just going to take some time to do this, is to differentiate the subjects, the sessions more. So, one session, if I'm going over a certain essay or a certain piece of content, not all kids need me to start from the beginning. And so being able to have different sessions and then have help kids figure out which one they go into. And that was something as a teacher, too, it's just hard because my classrooms would have, especially like the 9th grade classes with big history, I would have reading levels from 4th grade to 12th grade. And so just being able to teach everyone in a way that challenges each kid is something that I'm always trying to figure out, and it's not easy for sure.
No, it's not at all. I love
Yeah.
that you've already reflected on that. Like, you have a goal. Like, you know what you need to do. I love that. And fiveable, what is that?
So, so I left the classroom at the end of 2017, and from there, in this past year, like being away from the class, I really just like missed teaching. I missed having students, but I honestly couldn't afford to go get another job at a school. So instead, I just started to just do live stream group reviews for kids. And as soon as I did it for AP World and I did it for AP US History too, kids were like, do you have this for English? Do you have this for math? And so I sort of built this entire like startup while I was live with kids, because I was like, I don't have that yet, but I will. Like, I for sure will get that. And so that's what brought me to Utah. I'm doing a program that's helping me build my startup. And so this coming year, we're going to have 11 AP subjects. And so kids can basically, like, it's kind of like Netflix. Like, they'll subscribe for $10 a month, and then they can watch our live reviews for anything. And we'll be live once a week for every class.
That's amazing. I had
Yeah,
no
it's
idea
fun.
you were doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just so new. It's like I just started it in April, and in between April and May, I got almost 500 students signed up. And out of those students, we had some like crazy pass rates. We had like 94% of them pass their exams. So that's where we're gonna keep going with that. And we've hired some just really amazing teachers that are influential in each of their subjects. And so that's the plan. We're just going to keep growing and just trying to put teachers back into things. Kids watch a lot of videos, but they don't engage with them. But with a live teacher, they can actually ask questions and get feedback. So
Best idea. I am so excited for you.
Thank you.
So cool. Kind of along with that, are there any challenges that you faced, and with that, but also in the AP content areas that you worked with, did you face challenges with those?
Yeah, for sure. AP World, I personally think, is like one of the hardest AP classes, mostly because it's usually the first AP class that kids take, unless they do human geography. And so the course itself, it covers a lot, and it asks a lot of kids. And so one of the biggest problems that we had was just that our textbook was too difficult. And so we had to move really fast and read a chapter a week, but our kids, even if they read the chapter, weren't totally comprehending it. And so we had to just find ways to break down the chapter and teach better note-taking skills, and we had to stay at the same speed, but trying to fill in gaps where we could. And so that was like the most challenging piece of it. And so that's why I would argue that it's one of the hardest classes, because kids are just like, how do I even stay organized? How do I do this?
World is hard when it's not an AP course, so then putting it
Yeah.
in that AP level is insane.
Yeah, for sure.
If you were going to give tips to somebody who's about to take on maybe AP World, what tip would you give them?
So the best thing, honestly, and this would be even for any teacher in AP or not, the best thing to do is to like plan out like a long-term plan as far ahead as you can. And it doesn't even have to be like super specific of like, this is exactly what I'm going to do that Tuesday. But like I was really lucky that I always had someone else at my school that was teaching the same thing. And so if you don't have that person, find someone to be that person and sit down at the beginning of the year and just map out the whole year. Like, what topics do you want to cover in each month? However your school breaks it down, you can organize it by that. And so we would go kind of big picture for us it was marking periods, and then each week, like, what topics will we hit and what chapters do we need to make sure the kids are reading? And then you just have to like stick to it. And so, it gets like, that's where it gets difficult, because then, in the middle of the year or like snow days or whatever, things happen, and kids are just like, oh, can we just take a break, please? And you just have to be like, nope, like, we have to keep going. But planning out that far ahead lets you do really cool projects at the end of the year, because you'll have enough time to do that. So, and it makes the day-to-day just easier. Like, my first year teaching, I lived in a house of 6 teachers my first year of teaching, and all of us were like we were just in the space of like, all right, what am I going to teach tomorrow? And that's not a good place to be. So as fast as you can get away from that, that's best.
Yes, I love a pacing guide. That is the best tip. You lived with 6 teachers?
Yeah, it was a crazy house. I did.
Because they understand what you're going through.
Yeah, it was fun.
And that was here in California?
Yeah, that was in Oakland. Yeah. I did teach for America, so we all were kind of from different places and then needed a place to live, so everyone lived in the same house.
I feel like I'm learning so much good stuff about you. I did not know you did teach for America.
Yeah.
What were some of and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but the best and worst parts about being an AP teacher?
The best part about being an AP teacher is that I feel like it challenges students in ways that a lot of other courses maybe don't. And so what you get is, at least what I saw is, kids would come in nervous, like never having done it before, and they'd leave with so much confidence because they're like, whoa, I just learned all that. I just read this whole textbook, So that was just like really, that was the most fun, is just to really see like how much kids could grow in a year, and AP really pushed them. And then also like for me, like, any AP teacher, you don't know every single thing 100%. Like, you're learning with kids. I think every teacher is learning with kids. And so that was really true for me, and just constantly learning with them. And that was one of my favorite parts too, is that it just challenged me. It pushed me to like figure things out and piece it together. And I like that. What makes it really difficult is that like the key to having students pass is writing. But the more the kids write, the more you have to grade. And so you end up in this like, right? It's like, that this thing, if I make them do this more, that will help them. But every time I have them do it, I have to do a bunch of work. And I know that's true for every teacher too. But that's definitely the most stressful part. And so just, when you just have like a stack of essays, it's like, it's a drag. But
love a DBQ, but grading a DBQ is a whole nother experience.
For sure, yeah. Like, find a little tip for that though is to like find ways to not assign an entire essay, to just assign like certain pieces of it, like a thesis statement or one paragraph, and just work on that so you can grade it faster. But then it's just a challenge.
That's actually a really good tip just in general too, because then you can focus in on making sure you know how to do those parts. So that's a really good tip. In 2014 and 2015, there was that huge AP U.S. history debate that went on. And now they're talking about period 3 with world history. And I know there's just been an update, so I'm excited to kind of hear what you think about that. But what is period 3 before we go too far?
Yeah, so AP World is split into 6 time periods. And this is just like the most recent iteration of it. While it was being created, I've heard a bunch of different stories from 15 years ago about just in general there's a difference where like historians disagree on periodizing things, right? Like, where do you start, where do you draw lines, and how do you organize history is just a big topic. And so this version of AP World has 6 time periods. That it starts in 8000 BC and it goes up until the present. And so what they did is they announced this a month ago that the course itself would start in 1450. And so time period 3 is 600 to 1450. So that's like the post-classical era. And that is like when AP World teachers were discussing these changes, I think for us, honestly, I feel like you need a big picture of all of human history, and having taught big history, I know how to teach in like a thematic way so you can cover more time. But if we were gonna cut the course in any way, I think you could cut some of those like early civilizations and then just start with the classical era, or even if you started in 600, you could do it. But the biggest problem for us is if you start the class in 1450, you're completely eliminating just all sorts of, pre-Columbian history in the Americas, and you're not teaching Africa before slavery, and you're not teaching, Asia before imperialism. So it's just, that's why it was just such a shakeup when it happened, because it's just how could they, how can you understand the last 600 years without all of that?
Coming from that, saying how can you understand it? Why would losing that lead to teachers not even talking about potentially in those courses?
So a lot of teachers at first were like, well, I'll still teach it, and then it's not a problem. But it's unfortunately, we really live in a country that's run by standardized tests, and when we think about each state standards, they're all aligned to an exam, and you think all of our, goals as teachers end up aligning to some test. And so if this exam changes, then what we teach changes, because kids will ask, is this going to be on the test? And if I can't say yes, then that's going to lose value. The kids will stop listening, and the parents might say, why are you teaching them things that won't be on the test? That will have effects, outward. And then also, as it goes forward, there's plenty of things to teach from 1450 to the present. So teachers aren't going to, necessarily think about all the things before then, because they're going to already feel overwhelmed by just that time period. And so I think I wouldn't have taught those things had I not had a reason to, right? And so I want teachers in the future to have that reason to do it.
Why should teachers care? Why should we care about period 3? Or as a society, as a country, why should we care about that period?
Yeah. So just yesterday, after we made a huge deal out of it, so I had talked to Trevor at that open forum, and then that video went viral, and then all this press came out, and so they just announced yesterday that they instead of starting at 1450, they're going to start it at 1200. That's their compromise. And the biggest problem with that is it's just not a compromise, right? So all they've done is kind of included a little bit more of pre-Columbian American history and the Mongols, but what they're completely ignoring still is a very large part of China's history. They're completely ignoring, Islam and the caliphates. They're ignoring even if you want to talk about European history before then, So there's so much more going on. And one of the best conversations I had was with historian David Christian, and he was almost in tears just thinking about how do we resist climate change, and how do we understand how to save our planet without a full history of human interaction with the environment. And that, I was just you don't think of climate change as needing history education, but it does, right? We keep making the same mistakes, and if we don't understand how we even got here, then how are we going to fix it? And so if you start it in 1200, you're still not seeing the full picture, and it's a problem for kids.
And that's what world history is meant for. That's the purpose.
Right.
I love that you mentioned climate change, because people don't think about science needing history, but we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think too, it's context is such a big part of what we do, and even just to understand the context of today. There's so much going on today, I can barely keep up with the news. And our students are definitely not keeping up with the news. But how will they understand what's going on and why we have different relationships with different countries and different how different religions get along if we don't have the full picture of it? One of the points that I made to Trevor was, Islamophobia is such a problem today. How are we supposed to fight up against that if we don't have a full history of Islam?
And people are so quick to relate Christianity and Judaism, but they forget that Islam is part of that triangle.
Right.
It's all Abrahamic. They're all connected, and people just discount that. But in
Right.
world history, you're like, hey, look at this. They're connected.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly, yeah. And there's just so many developments and advancements that come out of the Islamic, world that, or even China, that we don't give any credit to, and then we just jump forward to when Europe figured it out too. And it's that's not fair.
We kind of just talked about them listening, but based on their response, because like you said, that's not really a compromise at all. Do you think that they're closed off to this conversation now?
I think the story a few weeks ago was, how could you cut world history? The story now is, how could you not listen to thousands of students, teachers, and like the historians that have literally shaped world history? Like, world history as a content subject is really new. That's something I'm learning too. Is before like the 70s even, it was a lot more of just like civilization. And it's not until the last like few decades that we really have thought of it as more thematic and more contextual. And the people who designed that, who have created this field, have told College Board, you can't do this. And they still are cutting it at 1200. They've said that they're going to create an ancient exam, so it'll be like 2 exams, but which would be theoretically okay, except that you're making kids now pay twice and other issues with it. But they also are saying, we'll do it if colleges will accept the credit. So they could easily just ignore it and never do it. So I don't know. I don't feel heard. I thought they were listening. I think they heard us, but they weren't listening, right? And I think that's still true.
It's interesting because when complained about the U.S. history changes, they were heard, and they grew back significantly. Yeah. But yet, when it comes from the other way, it seems anyway.
I think that's a really good point. The fact that we're having so much trouble fighting for this is part of what's going on in this country right now. It's all the same story, and it's not, we can't separate it. Like, we don't have political power, so we are not going to win this fight. And that's a problem.
And the history of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai is so empowering to the African American community. Like, what would that do if kids grew up knowing that prior to slavery and stuff? It's
like the Black Panther effect, right? It's like for kids to actually see like what could have been, and not to just live in a world of we are oppressed.
So on your YouTube channel and your Instagram, you are sharing so much good information for not just students. I think teachers can benefit from that information too. And what led to you doing that YouTube channel?
It all just kind of happened for me. Part of like with fiveable, I was just thinking like, you know, with AP World, there's not a lot of content out there. There's a lot for AP US. There's a lot for a lot of the other subjects. But for AP World, they're just, you know, teachers rely on like Crash Course. And Crash Course is good. It's just he speaks really fast and it's not aligned to the exam. So there's extra stuff and it skips other things. And so I just thought, you know, like, this is something that's needed. I think I can do it, and I'm just going to do it. And at first, like, as I'm sure you know too, like when you first record videos of yourself and put it out there for the world to see, it's terrifying. And I think like one of the issues I think I see, like there's not a lot of women doing this and like posting, especially in history, about content. And I think there's this like sense that you like have to be an expert to do it. And I think that's just not fair, right? Like, I don't think that like men think that. But I think women do, or like I thought even to myself, like, do I know enough about world history to be posting these videos? And I'm like, well, I can do this, and then you just sort of do it, and then you learn and you figure it out. But that's how I started doing it. I just was like, what's missing? What can I do to fill that?
I think history is a field in general. When I decided to be a history teacher, you get into college and it's just men everywhere. Yeah. I think I had one female history professor in my undergrad.
Yeah, and I just was like, you know what? Like, my version of history is going to sound different than, you know, I mean, if I go on YouTube, it's a lot of white men telling the same stories, and they're smart, they're brilliant, their videos are great, but I want to tell my story and give it, you know, the twist that I think it deserves. And I think students have appreciated that because there just isn't a lot of it.
Moving forward with your YouTube channel and your Instagram, you're doing a lot of the same stuff. Like you look at like my Instagram or other history teachers, and it's a lot of more pedagogy or lifestyle things, you were posting legitimate history content regularly. So what can we expect to see from you on Instagram and YouTube moving forward?
This is something that we're working on right now. With fiveable, I'm sort of figuring out how to combine my high-level history persona and fiveable, and so we're going to be launching a fiveable YouTube channel that will, I think the high-level history one will sort of become that, and that will include videos for all the subjects that we're going to have, and so we'll have just a lot of videos that we'll be posting on YouTube. On Instagram, I want to continue doing the same like history with context series that I was doing. I want to continue posting history, photos, especially doing different series of people who are not taught in courses, who are oftentimes overlooked. And then we're going to be doing similar things for other subjects as well. So, yeah, and one of the things I want to try to launch soon is a like daily trivia kind of thing for kids. I'm trying to work through exactly where it'll be, but I mean, I love trivia, and I know kids love trivia, so.
I love that. I'm so excited for you, and I feel like there were so many layers to you that I just didn't get through Instagram and YouTube, so this has been great. This is fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. This has been like an absolute crazy year for me.
I don't know if there's anybody better for the job, so I'm excited to see you do this, and yeah. So with fiveable and what you're doing for AP as an area of study, what kind of trainings are there going to be? So with fiveable is like for students, but we're also developing a teacher side of it as well. Because part of the things one of the reasons why they announced these changes in AP world is because they're frustrated by the scores. And I feel like the way to fix that, like this is a hard class to teach, but they don't offer enough training for teachers. And when they do, it's really expensive. You got to go to these like summer institutes that are a week long in person. So you have to get there, and it costs like $1,000 to go, which is insane. So and because the class just changes so much, it's just hard to keep up with. And so with fiveable, we're kicking off. We're going to try this whole year with supporting AP history teachers, and so that is going to start with a 2-day summit that's August 4th and 5th. I've done interviews with some of like the leading teachers and historians and textbook writers in world, U.S., and European history. And so then on those 2 days, we're going to be live talking about the different essays and going through specific ways on how to teach them. And then all year long, I'll be live for teachers like every other week, helping teachers to lesson plan, to unit plan, to grade, to plan student interventions, just to like figure it out so that it doesn't take up so much brain space, to just help provide that collaboration. So many teachers could benefit from that. New teachers, experienced teachers, that's great for everybody.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And for this too, we're also going to be giving away a full year subscription of fiveable to all of the students of as many teachers that sign up as we can. So it's crazy. So for teachers that sign up, it's at summit.fiveable.me, and then they'll be given a full year of access to fiveable for themselves, and then for also as many students as we can give out to.
Right, Amanda, I had so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on. I learned a lot about you and your program and AP in general, so thank you for making the time.
Yeah, thank you.
And guys, I'm going to link all of her stuff down below. Please go check it out, especially the summit.fiveable.me, because that is something you cannot miss. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.